I'm going to be presenting 5 upgrades, as I would call them, but we can just call them alternatives to 5 extremely popular fragrances. These alternatives are not fragrances that, number 1, are the same but smell better. Number 2, are cheaper alternatives. Number 3, outperform their counterparts. And number 4, are more mass appealing than their counterparts. In a way, this video is meant to continue the anti-hype train that I started in a recent video, which you can check out here. And I feel the need to prescribe a warning. So please heed the following information. Your life depends on it. The hyped fragrances that I will be replacing are not bad fragrances. You can pause and read that again. I simply want to imbue information that is not only on trend, so that there's some variety gracing your YouTube feed. I think I can already hear the keyboard warriors typing.
Why are you trying so hard to be different, bro?
That's simple, because it takes absolutely no effort to be like everyone else. But it only takes a little bit of intentionality to actually make an impact. I simply choose not to spend my finite time on this earth as another guy. I believe that there's significance out there for all of us to pursue. Now, does this significance exist in the making of fragrance reviews? Well, on the surface, no. But if at least one of you leaves this video feeling empowered, enlightened, or encouraged, then I feel like some impact has been made. The same goes for those who might feel intimidated, irritated, and God forbid, invalidated by this video, because my aim is to cause none of those things. But through all of that, I still want you to grow into your best self, whatever that may look like for you. Enough blabbing. Let's get into this. Let's talk about Fragrantica for a moment. With all of its faults, Fragrantica is a decent barometer for a fragrance's popularity in Fragcom, not in the industry abroad, but definitely in the online fragrance community. And this is not based on the comments you might see on a fragrance. This is based on the votes you might see on that fragrance. Why? Voting takes way less time than leaving a comment. But I would imagine that a majority of users on Fragrantica do not engage with voting. I don't know the exact numbers, but with most things like this, it's probably approximately a third of people who vote regularly, while a third might vote on occasion, and the final third will never vote. So a fragrance that has multiple thousands of votes actually has a lot of traffic that is virtually invisible. It's not reflected. For instance, almost a year since its launch, my fragrance collaboration with Zaharoff's Second Soul only has about 105 votes on Fragrantica. And I can assure you that more than 105 people have experienced this fragrance. Meanwhile, Jean Paul Gaultier Le Male Elixir, which has come out within the past 6 months or so, already is approaching 2,000 votes. So time is not necessarily the most important variable when it comes to dissemination. And I think the internet has proven that time and time again. The first eternally hyped fragrance we have to talk about is Creed Aventus. I'm not going to really describe the scent because you know the scent. What I will say about it is that it is masculine, classic, and it has a versatile freshness. This is an everyday guy scent. That goes without saying. A great fragrance that I would recommend in place of Aventus that smells nothing like it, but can serve the same purpose and gives me the same feeling is from Ormond Jane, and it's Ormond Man. This fragrance came out long before Aventus, and it still has stood the test of time today. And this is an incredible, fresh, woody scent. There's a beautiful juniper berry note that brings the freshness. You have hemlock, which is a very interesting floral quality. It's a little green and mossy. It's almost a little bit nutty to me. There might be some cardamom in here, lending a little bit of a sweet spiciness that's also fresh. And it does have this musky, woody dry down that smells very masculine and just very attractive. A perfect substitute. I've been getting a lot of wear out of this recently, and I'm loving it. So I highly recommend you check it out. That's Ormond Man. We have what some people call the Aventus killer, Cedrat Boisé from Mancera. A lot of people say it doesn't really smell like Aventus. It doesn't smell exactly like Aventus, but it's definitely inspired. I think it's safe to say that if there was no Aventus, this may have never been created. Prove me wrong. I describe Cedrat Boisé as fruity, long-lasting, and appealing with depth. And I cannot guarantee that this fragrance will be equally as popular. It's simply not, for various reasons, but I think if people do get their nose on it, they would like it maybe just about as much as Cedroit Boisé. This is from Sphinx. They call it Sphinx Signature. This is a clean, fruity, sweet, warm, spicy fragrance that simply smells mass appealing. There's something very simple about it, but it has a blend that is way above par as far as mainstream smelling fragrances go. Performs well, very likable, and the name speaks for it. It could be a signature. If you love it, you could wear it for just about anything. I will not lie to you and say this is my favorite fragrance, but I have to objectively admit it fulfills a similar role that Cedroit Boisé could fulfill, if you're asking me. That is Sphinx Signature. Now, this next one was a hard one to beat, so to speak, but I needed something that could compete, that could kind of go toe to toe. Hawass is a heavy contender. It packs a wallop. It's boyish, it's noticeable, it's likable, and it's fresh sweet. And freshness and sweetness put together is a hard combination to beat, especially when it's powerful. I do enjoy the wearing experience for the first couple hours. After that, it just kind of gets one track for me and I get bored and even a little irritated of it, and I'll feel the need to kind of wash it off. So those first couple hours, cool. After that, I'm ready for something else. This fragrance got a little bit of hype when it came out, but nowhere near the hype that Hawass came out, and you can see it especially on YouTube and on Fragrantica. Nowhere near as much traffic and press about this fragrance, but it had its little limelight for a bit. From Sorador, this is called Gladiator. Now, frankly, this reminds me a little bit of a Ventus, but not exactly that. It is decent quality. Technically a niche scent, has a niche construction. It has thoughtfulness behind it. It does have density and strength. It does smell of quality, but it does also kind of smell like a mainstream fragrance. Very mass appealing. Fresh and minty, has a lot of ambroxan in it. Definitely smells a little bit blue, almost like a blue take on a Ventus, so to speak. But the freshness and the sweetness in here, I do think competes with Hawass. I can see this being extremely likable, and it's also quite strong, which I think was absolutely necessary in selecting an alternative. There you go. That's Gladiator. Again, not completely unknown, but pales in comparison. This fragrance is fresh, basic and clean, and strong. People are going to be talking about this one for a long time, even though there have been several flankers since its inception. From Yves Saint Laurent, this is Y Eau de Parfum. Finally got a bottle of the EDP. I've had the EDT for a little bit, which I don't care that much for. I used to not really like this fragrance. I like it a little bit more than I used to though, but I don't actually truly like it. It's fine. Objectively, it does smell good. It will do the job as people are looking for, but it just doesn't suit me. It doesn't suit my personality. It doesn't feel like Justin. So a fragrance that I would use to replace it is also nothing relatively new, but nowhere near as hyped, and definitely perhaps a little bit more niche by comparison. Bleu de Chanel Parfum. There's a lot of people out there who complain that this does not perform. The Parfum moniker does not always guarantee performance, and I think that's where this expectation comes from. When people are disappointed, they expected it to be strong because of its name. I do think that the name is well placed because I find this to be quite a strong fragrance in its longevity. Now, in its projection, not necessarily. This is a heavy scent. Heavier scents do not project. They may not fill the room. This is way more classy, but still has a blue freshness that is easy to wear, easy to like, very versatile. Smells clean. I would definitely say less basic smelling for me than YSL Y and that whole collection. For me, it's just simply superior. It's also more expensive, so it's going to be up to you to really place value where it is. But if I'm going to go for a blue fragrance, I would much prefer pretty much the whole collection of Bleu de Chanel over Y, but especially the Parfum. And finally, a beloved fragrance. This has a ton of votes on Fragrantica, especially relative to its release. And the reason why I'm not sharing the numbers of votes is because they will drastically change in the future. I shared the numbers of votes for this one because the votes are not really going to change that much. It's not going to get a ton more traffic as time goes on, but this fragrance will continue to get a lot of traffic. So the vote numbers I could put in this video will be obsolete by tomorrow. From Killian, this is Angel Share. I really like Angel Share and I look forward to wearing it a lot this fall. It is new to my collection. For me, I get almost an apple cinnamon vibe with a sweet, warm booziness. This is probably my favorite one of all the ones I've featured that I would replace. I actually really do like Angel Share, but it is hyped to death. You and I both know this. I describe it as warming, alluring with a dark edge. There's something about Angel Share that can rub people the wrong way. In my experience, when I first smelled it, it smelled like burning rubber to me. I've heard other people say the same thing. I don't really get that vibe anymore, but because it has this edge, it has a sharpness to it that can teeter one way or the other, I really actually respect that about the scent. It makes it more definitive, and I love definitiveness in a fragrance. It makes it more specific, doesn't smell like everything else out there. But I would replace this with something really good. This is a fragrance I spoke about a little bit more when it came out, but I haven't said much about it since. You guys got to get your nose on this line. You can easily get yourself a discovery set, and there will be links down below from Adamo Parfum, which is a relatively new house. This is called Numero 2. Perfumed by the one and only Christian Provenzano, who seems to be the busiest man in perfumery these days. Again, smells nothing like Angel Share, but has this beautiful, sexy, warming, almost amberwood, sweet allure to it. Definitely a lot of creamy sandalwood in there. You do have some slightly spicy saffron. It's a little bit musky and very round. It actually has a very nice transition as it dries on the skin. I don't think it's quite as sharp as Angel Share. It doesn't have quite as definitive of a face, I would say, but the way the elements come together and the way that they evolve on the skin gives it its identity. And it's plenty strong, leaves nothing to be desired in that way, and very, very alluring. May actually be more alluring in my opinion than Angel Share. This actually might be something that pulls people in. It's a little bit more cozy, but still present. So guys, do check this one out. Once again, you can get a discovery set down below of Adamo Parfum. If you've already checked out this house since I first started talking about it, sound off in the comments. Let everybody know what you think. So obviously, this could be a series. There's many more super hyped fragrances I could include and we could give alternatives to. Again, not trying to say these fragrances need to be dethroned or they're not worth talking about. Again, there's just many other fragrances that we could be talking about. And why not do so? We don't always have to just keep our eyes on one place. So let me know what you think down in the comments. If you want to see a series, prove it to me. I'd love to continue if you want to see it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.